Every talisman in that town is gone. All of them, gathered up in one afternoon and thrown into a burning tree by something wearing a dead woman's face. The bottle tree that's been rooted in that ground since before any of these people arrived is sitting on the back of a truck. And the second it left the soil, the sky did something it has never done in 4 seasons. It let creatures move around in broad daylight, like the sun wasn't even there. 2 people didn't make it out of that finale. One of the gentlest characters on the show now has claws where her hands used to be. And the man who has held this town together since episode 1 said 7 words that recontextualize the entire series. We never should have pulled that tree. That's not a recap. That's the launch point for the final season of From. And in just the last few weeks, real information has come out about it. Filming dates, cast changes, an episode count fight that's actually been settled. Most of it's stuff the usual breakdown videos haven't caught up to yet. So let's go through it properly. What's confirmed, what the show is clearly building toward, and where this could all go wrong. Before we start, one rule so you can trust what you're hearing. I'm sorting everything into 3 lanes today. Confirmed, meaning it happened on screen or the people making the show said it directly. Strongly implied, meaning the show is clearly pointing somewhere without confirming it outright. In theory, meaning it's fun, it's unproven, and you should treat it that way. I'll flag which lane we're in as we go, because this fandom attracts a lot of confident-sounding guessing, and I'd rather you leave this video sharper than you started it. Start with what isn't up for debate. MGM Plus announced the Season 5 renewal on April 15th, 2026, days before Season 4 even premiered, which tells you the network already knew what it had before the finale aired. The announcement confirmed From as the most-watched series in the platform's history, and it confirmed the part that changes how you should watch everything from here on. Season 5 is the last one. Not a pause, not a maybe, the actual end. What surprised me digging into this is how far back that ending was actually planned. Creator John Griffin has said in later interviews that 5 seasons was roughly the shape of the story from close to the beginning, and that the team wanted the narrative itself to signal when it was time to stop rather than forcing a cutoff. He's also described a major character death back in Season 3 as the close of the show's first act, which makes Season 4 the true start of the ending, and Season 5 the landing. Here's a part that's genuinely fresh. Filming on Season 5 began July 6, 2026, in Halifax, Nova Scotia, where every season of this show has been shot, and it's scheduled to run through late November. Cast members have already posted from set. Cortion Moore, who plays Ellis, shared behind-the-scenes photos confirming shooting was underway. Hannah Cherami, who plays Julie, posted from a table read with a chunk of the returning cast in the room. Harold Perrineau, who plays Boyd and also produces the show, pulled out of a scheduled convention appearance this July specifically because of the shoot. None of that is filler. It tells you the writer's room turned the final season around fast, cameras rolling within about 3 months of the finale airing, which for a show this dense is quick. And on the reception side, Season 4 landed with an unusually strong critical response for a show in its 4th year, sitting in the high 90s with critics according to most outlets tracking it. MGM Plus isn't closing this show because of fading numbers. It's closing it because the people making it asked to. One thing worth clearing up, because coverage has genuinely split on it. For a while after the renewal, some outlets reported Season 5 would expand to 13 episodes, a bigger canvas for a bigger ending. But the more recent reporting, from after filming actually started, points to the final season landing at 10 episodes, matching the last 2 seasons instead of growing. If that holds, the final season isn't getting extra room. It's getting the standard runway, which means no padding. Every one of those 10 hours has to be doing real work. Confirmed to return. Harold Perrineau as Boyd, Catalina Sandino Moreno as Tabitha, David Alpe as Jade, Elizabeth Saunders as Donna, Scott McCord as Victor, Ricky He as Kenny, Chloe Van Lanschot as Christy, Cortion Moore as Ellis, Hannah Cherami as Julie, and Pegah Ghafouri as Fatima. Hold on to that last name, because we're coming back to why it matters. Who's not walking back in as their old selves. The actors behind 2 characters killed in the finale aren't expected to return, barring a flashback or a vision sequence, which this show absolutely has the toolkit for. And one small but telling update straight from the set. An actress who played an unnamed background resident in Season 4 announced in July that she's been bumped up to a supporting role for the final season. Small detail on paper. But this show has a habit of turning background faces into major players exactly when the story needs a new body in the room. So keep her on your radar. Quick pass through the finale itself, because everything else builds on it. Down in the tunnels, Jade and Tabitha finally reach the remains of the children, the ones sacrificed generations ago in the deal that built this entire nightmare. Here's a detail that gets skipped over a lot. Jade had been telling Tabitha the bones would shield them from the creatures while they dug them out. In the finale, he admits that was never true. He lied to keep her moving. That's not a throwaway beat. It's the show telling you its most careful, most knowledge-obsessed character will bend the truth to get the objective finished. And that's going to matter the moment Season 5 needs someone to make an impossible call. Above ground, Boyd's crew ripped the bottle tree out with a truck, and the moment it left the ground, daylight hit a chamber that was never supposed to see it. Creatures that are supposed to be locked to the dark stood there in direct sun and barely reacted. Meanwhile, the thing wearing Sophia's face spent the episode calmly stripping every talisman out of every home it could find and burning the entire collection at once. 2 deaths followed. One character was killed for refusing to make a deal with the entity. Another died from her wounds after the town's medical safety net failed at the worst possible moment. And in the tunnels, Fatima, exposed to the entity's own blood without knowing it, transformed into one of the creatures mid-rescue, and used what was left of her humanity to buy the others time to get out. By the end of the hour, the group has the bones. They don't have the tree. They don't have a single talisman left standing. And Boyd, a character built entirely around taking action, says out loud that the action they just took might have been the mistake. Now, the debate worth spending real time on. What are those bones actually for? And the show has built this specifically so you can't guess your way to a clean answer. The hopeful read is straightforward. The children were sacrificed. Their remains anchor them to this place. And pulling the bones out breaks whatever's holding the town together. There's real support for that in the finale itself. Sunlight pouring into a chamber that's supposed to stay permanently dark is the show telling you, without a line of dialogue, that a fundamental rule of this place just cracked. But there's a colder read sitting right beside it, and once you notice it, it's hard to unsee. The town wasn't built by taking something back. It was built by a sacrifice, a trade made incorrectly by people trying to cheat the terms. What if getting the bones out isn't the fix? What if the fix is completing that original trade properly this time on purpose? The entity itself has told characters earlier this season that recovering the bones is something no previous cycle of this town has ever managed, which confirms this genuinely is new territory. But it's also warned, more than once, that how something is done matters as much as what's done, that having the key doesn't mean you're standing at the right door. That's where Jade's lie becomes more than a character moment. If the show lets its most careful character bend the truth just to get the objective completed, that's the writers signaling the objective itself isn't simple or safe. There's also a word the creators have confirmed that might be the most important detail in the entire mythology. The name for the sacrificed children translates to remember. Sit with that for a second. On a show that is underneath the monsters, entirely about a cycle that survives by making people forget. The bones being tied to a word that literally means remember is not decoration. It's a thesis statement. And if there's a physical destination all of this is building toward, the strongest candidate by far is a body of water that's been in this show since its second episode, one the youngest Matthew's child has been dreaming about for years, and one a version of his dead father specifically told him to go find. The show has treated that location like a loaded gun sitting on a shelf since Season 1. Season 5 feels like the moment it finally gets picked up. Above all of that sits the bigger question the finale finally forced into the open, the relationship between the entity wearing Sophia's face and the boy in white who's been watching this town from the edges since Season 1. In the finale's last scene, the two of them talk like people who've had this exact conversation before. The boy tells the entity it's going to lose this time. The entity's answer is essentially we'll see. The easy read is good versus evil, a literal chess match with the town as the board. And there's real creative DNA in this show supporting that read. Some of the minds behind an earlier, very famous mystery series worked on this one too, and it shows. But the people running from have specifically declined to confirm which side the boy in white is actually on. Asked directly, they've said his connection to all of this is real, but whether that connection is good news or bad news is still an open question. When the writers won't confirm their own apparent hero is a hero, that's not an accident. That's the show telling you the binary is going to get complicated before this ends. Practically speaking, Season 5 opens on a brutal, simple problem. Every talisman in town is gone, and those charms weren't decoration, they were doing real, independent, mechanical work keeping the creatures out at night. The entity didn't get lucky destroying them, it hunted down everyone it could find deliberately, which tells you exactly how much it feared them working. Add in a theory gaining traction, still unconfirmed, that the bottle tree itself was the deeper anchor holding the whole protective system together, and you get a town walking into its final chapter with essentially nothing left standing between it and the dark. And purely for fun, with zero canon behind it, there's a persistent theory that the entity's true form connects to the spider imagery that keeps surfacing in nightmares and in that lake, the idea being the whole town is a web, and the man in yellow sits at the center of it. Great image. Completely unproven. File it as theory, not prediction. Fatima deserves her own stretch because her arc is the most genuinely open thread heading into the end. She transformed in those tunnels, but she kept enough of her mind in that moment to protect the people she was with. And there's a detail worth sitting with. In that same sequence, one of the other creatures addressed her as Mother right before killing another character, which suggests whatever Fatima is becoming isn't just another generic monster. It might carry actual standing among them. The people making the show have stayed deliberately vague when asked what happens to her next. And in this business that usually means one thing. Her story isn't finished, it's changing shape. Fan theories split two ways, that she becomes the next real threat the group has to face, or that she becomes something closer to a weapon, a creature that remembers being human enough to turn against the others. Both are live. Neither is confirmed. But Pega Ghafouri is confirmed back for Season 5. So whatever Fatima is now, she's still part of this story that on the human side. Keep an eye on the fractured father and son at the center of this season's quietest storyline. One of them spent the season convinced the town wasn't real and that his own son was the thing trapping him here. And it nearly ended in tragedy before another character stepped in. That relationship isn't walking into Season 5 intact. And given how deliberately the show built the fracture, I'd expect it to carry real weight through the final run rather than get resolved off-screen. And don't sleep on Julie. Her ability to storywalk, to step into and witness the town's past, even though she can't change it, has mostly been treated as a side power so far. But it's exactly the tool a story about buried history and cycles of forgetting needs in its final stretch. And there are already signs the show intends to lean on it harder as it moves toward answering where this town actually came from. So heading into the last chapter, confirmed, this is genuinely the end, filming is already underway, and most of the surviving cast is walking back in for a 10-episode final run. Strongly implied. The bones are the central mechanism of whatever ending is coming. The man in yellow and the boy in white have history that runs far deeper than one town, and Fatima's transformation is a beginning, not a conclusion. Theory for now. Anything involving spiders, and exactly how much this is all going to cost before it's over. If there's one thread tying every piece of this together, it's an idea the creators keep circling in interviews. Nothing in this story gets learned for free. Every answer this town has ever given up has cost somebody something. The bones are the biggest piece of knowledge these characters have ever gotten their hands on. Season 5 is where they find out the price stuff that's everything worth knowing right now, the confirmed facts, the strong signals, and the theories still worth arguing about. I want to hear where you land, especially on the freedom versus sacrifice question, because I genuinely don't think it's settled. Drop your read in the comments, and if there's a detail from the finale I didn't touch on today, put that down too. This fandom catches things I miss constantly. I'll be back the moment there's actual news to cover, not speculation dressed up as news. Thanks for spending this one with me.